One. Everybody, welcome to another episode of ArmTalk. I'm your host, Jody Williams. I got some studs on this show today because we got some serious topics we want to touch base on. We got Mr. Billy Ortagus, the guy that's in charge of the TAL. Billy, welcome to the show.
What's happening, fellas?
And we got the judge himself, Mr. Brian Parliment. And Brian, I want to say for you and all the rest of the Canadian fans, happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Even though yours is in November, right? Isn't that true?
Correct.
Yeah.
So today's topic is really interesting. And I was talking to Louis Horvath, who will be joining us momentarily. And he made a statement, and it kind of made me, think, I should have some people on the show to talk about this. So I was trying to find a way, how do we segue into it? So I made a post last week or so, and my post is, and I should have made a poll actually, and it was stemmed from what tournament should I do to kick off 2026? And I look at the month of March, and by God, we got so many events back to back to back, and then some of weeks in March. So it stemmed from the first weekend of March. You got the Arnold Classic, right, which I qualified for up in Manitoba. That same day, we got the North America Championships up in Ottawa, Canada. So there's that. The following weekend, we got the other North America Championships in Las Vegas. Then March 21st, you got the Fallen Heroes event in Kansas City. You got Winter Blast the week after that, and that's just March. And of course, you got the IFA National the following month. So my question would be to you guys, do you think we have too many tournaments, just enough, or how can we make this thing, better? Billy, I'll let you go first.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on the perspective that you're looking at it, from, right?
Right.
And what you want, kind of what your goals are, what you want. So like here in Texas, I mean, I think I was talking with somebody the other day, and we're between super match events and tournaments. I think we're like in the 15s, like for the year, like 15 different individual events just in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
And while you might say that's good, and I guess from a puller's perspective with opportunity to pull and stuff like that, I think what we run into is you also have a lot of pullers that are expecting more and more, right? They expect more. They expect bigger payouts. Why didn't more tournaments have payouts? They would expect bigger and better awards. They expect, master elite level referees. And, we all know what that takes to get these people in and do those things. For me, it just kind of gets to the point where I'm like here in Texas is like the pullers have to understand, and they have to realize what do they want out of the tournaments in their region. Do they want bigger tournaments? Do they want opportunities for payouts, stuff like that? If so, then the oversaturation of tournaments is not going to be a good thing to help that along.
No, I totally get that.
Because we clearly do not have enough arm wrestlers, like say here in the States. I know Canada does pretty well with the way their spread is, and they have, high entry events and stuff like that. Their nationals is massive, and their provincials and stuff is great. But like here in the States, we're seeing a number of tournaments drop dramatically. From where they used to be, say 2 years ago. And I think the only factor is just saturation in options.
Yeah. And that's the problem I ran into. Like, which one do I want to go to? Because I had so many promoters reach out to me, and they're like, oh, hey, maybe you can come this year. And I've told promoters over the years, if I can't go this year, I'll try to go next year. Right. And I feel like when I make a decision, I personally feel that I've turned the other ones down. I feel bad about that. And I shouldn't feel bad, but I do feel bad because, I'm in close with some of these promoters, and you don't want to turn them down. But at the same time, it's like there's so many to pull. And I know somebody made a comment saying, why don't you go to the one you haven't been to yet? That's the logical thing. But I got some unfinished business to do with some of the others I've gone to already,
Yeah.
Brian, what do you think about all this? What's your perspective?
Well, here, you know what, like Billy was saying, it is different between here and there. For one, here it's pretty simple. We do use master refs. We like to have at least 2 master refs at every event. The oversaturation doesn't happen as bad here because really we're just limited. And if you're not having a couple master refs at your event at least, you're probably not going to get a good turnout anyway. And another thing is here, I find it always sorts itself out because, everybody thinks they can jump in, hold an event. They're going to make some money. They think it's going to be the biggest event. And I'll tell you what, promoters don't decide shit. The pullers always decide who's successful. They always decide which promotion's successful. And really, if you're going to put on an event, make sure it's planned out well. Make sure pullers have had ample amount of time to put it on the calendar, train for it. If they decide to go to your event, these last minute, I'm doing an event next month, and you know what I mean? This shit. Well, you know what? You're just setting yourself up for failure, right? Like the way I look at it, the good events here, and if it's done properly, you don't have any problems with oversaturation because the pullers they're just gonna decide. And if your event's got nice trophies, cash prizes, you got good matches, you got master refs, there's not going to be a lot left for the other event to succeed because the master refs are plucked in then, right? So the way I look at it, if someone's dumb, like if you've posted your event 4 months in advance or longer in advance, and you got master refs, you got your prize. If anybody decides to just pop an event up, well, they're just asking to fail anyway. So I think the oversaturation in Canada, even though it's here, I think it sorts itself out real quick. And I think a lot of people try and then they realize, you can't just throw an event and think it's, going to just take off. Right. So, I mean, that's my stance on it. I think that it always sorts itself out. And I think, like I said, if it's planned out, like we're about to start this 98 through the Fingers League, right? Well, our first event's April, May, right? We haven't put down the date yet, but we got ample time and it's going to be every 3 months. So if every quarter there's going to be an event. Those are going to be locked in 2 years in advance. You know what I mean? So, and anybody that attends is going to know what we're about. You know what I mean? And they'll make the decision, right? Like pullers, I think a lot of promoters just forget that it's the pullers that decide. They always decide what promotion succeeds. So if you're going to run an event, be smart about it. Be smart about it and make sure that you got good rep in the community. Make sure that, don't just think you can just pop an event 2 weeks outside of, let's say, Ryan Espy's event, and you're going to get a good turnout because those guys have already locked it in their calendar and they're already going to that event. You know what I mean? Like this weekend, we did Iron Core League, right? Iron Core League was this weekend. Well, they do it the same weekend every year. So, and every year they and their numbers have been up 20 to 40 entries every year. This year they had 250. I'd like to say 256 entries.
Yes.
And for the size of the venue and everything else and it was a good event. And it's been growing. They gave out cash prizes. They gave out trophies to the winners. We had big super matches. We had Tony Tomlinson down. He pulled Dustin Houghton. That was a big match. My buddy Deadly Dale had a match of the night. I mean, it was just a good overall event, right? So now if anybody posted an event near that, well, they just screwed themselves because people have Iron Core locked in every year, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of my position on it. It doesn't bug me, and I don't really think about it too much because I think, like I said, if the event's run properly and it's organized properly, and people are going to like who they like, right? So it sorts itself out real quick. And then the guys that are just jumping on thinking they can just, hey man, let's do an event in 3 weeks, shit like that. You see it all the time, right? They don't look at who's holding an event or they just fail anyway, right? So
Well, Lewis, welcome to the show. I know you kind of got on late, but the first question out was like, do you think we have too many tournaments? Is it saturated? So I got the guys' take. I want your take on that. What's your observation on all this?
Well, I can't speak for Mr. Patel up there. He's up there in Canada, and I think they have it think they run it a little bit different than here in the United States. Just a bit. I think that the U.S. scene is oversaturated. I know you and I talked about this before we got on the podcast a couple days ago. It's getting a bit washed out. And there's a lot of animosity that gets built. It's like you could have like the TAL, you guys are trying to stay consistent down there in Texas and host an event, every whatever, right? You guys have your calendar set. This is what we're going to do. It's at the Ice House, like every however many weeks, right?
Yeah.
Then you've got, Arizona State, then you've got Washington, like they're around the same time frame every year. But I just think that the US scene is just a bit washed out. And there's just so much going on that, it's hard not to step on somebody's toes. But, like I said, I don't know if Jody premised this with you guys. It's like, what was the number one purpose that we all wanted to start arm wrestling for, besides just being strong? Like, what was the number one reason why, promotions were started? What was that for you?
For me, it was the love of the community and the pullers and the family and the getting together and all coming together. And, it's like, what I find down there is you guys put too many lines in the sand. And then you got, like Arizona. Oh, I support this guy. I support this guy. Oh, if you go to his event, well, I can't go to his event because I'm going to Tim's events, or you know what I mean? There's too much of that. Here we promote each other more. Like I will promote Iron Core League. I'm part of Iron Core League, but I run a different league, right? And I promote all the leagues here, and we promote each other, right? Where there, I find you guys put lines in the sand too much. You know what I'm saying?
That's literally what Jody and I were talking about 2 days ago, and why we wanted to have this is like, what are we seeing? What can we do? What has been the history? How can we get this message out to, be like, hey, like Jody's in a wonderful spot where he's got to choose where he's got to go and who's paying for him.
You know what?
It's a great
problem to have. That's a great thing. That's a great thing to have as a puller. Yeah.
Right.
It's great, but then again, it's not great because it's like I said before, when we started the show, I felt like I was turning somebody down, and I don't want to do that because, in the perfect world, you want to attend all the events you can. And my wife gave me the best advice for arm wrestling. She said, "Babe, you can't go to every tournament."
Nope.
So, because you got to balance life, you got to balance work, training, tournaments, all that kind of stuff. So when she said that to me, I had to take a step back and kind of go, okay, you're right. So then I kind of that's when I started planning my stuff out, sometimes a year in advance at the most, a few months in advance, that kind of thing. But I'm going to go ahead, since we're 13 minutes in, I'm going to go ahead and break the glass ceiling with this because Lewis and I were talking the other day, as he said, and, he was like, well, what's the biggest tournament, in the United States? I'm like, you know what? Winter Blast, probably the biggest tournament, if not one of the biggest tournaments out there. And Lewis goes, well, from an entry standpoint, because even this year, there were some hiccups that I'm not going to get into that try to derail that event. But even with all that being said, they still able to have 497 entries. Now, I know it's not as big as Ottawa Open. I get that, but
it's a big tournament, man. Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing that Lewis said to me that kind of said, okay, we should probably do a show about this. He said, how come we can't get all the promoters to join forces and go to Philadelphia? Since if they're pulling that now, and that's, a big event, they have it every year in March, why can't we just have a national there? And I said, because I really think, and this is where, maybe Billy can probably speak more of it from a promoter standpoint. I said this because promoters want their promotion to be the thing. That's my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right, but if they were to join forces, like I'll give you an example. The last national I went to was the 2017 Unified Nationals, and that was held in Reno, Nevada. And on the board was Simon Barachoa, Frank and Karen Bean, Bill Collins. Okay, think about that. Those four people I just mentioned. Bill Collins runs his own organization, promotion, right? The UAL. Frank and Karen Bean runs the AAA. They put their stuff aside and go, hey, let's join forces to get one common goal. And that goal was to build a Team USA to represent us at the WAF Worlds. And that year, I think, was in Budapest, Hungary. Now, things happened. They broke up, and they're no longer part of the board. But for that moment, they all joined forces. So going back to what Lewis was saying, where can we go to get back to that? I'm going to let Billy take the first one on this one.
We can't.
Okay.
Won't happen.
That's sad. Yeah.
You only will find a very small select group of promoters that will find a way to work together. I mean, we saw it with, AUA. We tried to start AUA, right? And one promoter left because, I mean, let's be honest with you. I've got nothing personal against him, but he didn't get his way.
Right.
He wanted it his way. And when it didn't turn out his way, he said, I am not doing it. I'm leaving. And respectfully, we said, okay, whatever.
Right.
And it's even tough. Like, so like take the AUA, for instance, me, Sean Hancock, Mikey Olivia and Ryan up in the Northeast. We still have our differences where we want to go. All right. There's things that work for me here in Texas.
Yep.
That you don't need to do up there, Ryan. And there's things that Ryan does up in the Northeast that I don't need to do down here. It's completely different demographics, different pullers, weight classes are different, everything like that. I mean, to go as far as like, I remember I had a group chat with Frank Callahan and Corey Miller. And I would send in like airs updates. Guys needed their name change or their tournament updated, stuff like that. And Corey was like, look, why don't I just put all these promoters into the same group? That way they can just send just airs updates. We don't need to talk about anything else. Just airs updates. Right? He started adding these promoters. Half of them he couldn't add or whatever because these promoters had each other blocked. Half of them got in there, saw who was in there, and left the group. And all it was just for airs. There wasn't anything else to discuss in that, right? It was just a place where Corey could all updates in one instead of having like 50 different messages.
That's really unfortunate.
It is,
That
and
is.
now to a certain extent. All right. So let's just be real about this, right? We're all in the same business.
Sure.
All right. We're all we're all in the ice cream business here, and we're all trying to sell ice cream, so we're only going to be able to go so far. And this is kind of where I see it and this is what I do.
Something like that.
Till this day, I have never told anybody not to go to somebody else's event.
Me either.
Boom. There it is.
Regardless of my stance on what I do and what I do with, like, say, my organization. You'll never see a post come out in opposition of another organization or anything like that. The best thing I can do is that if I don't agree with you or I don't do this, I leave it alone. You do your thing, I do my thing. If we don't support each other, we don't support each other. But I think that's the best thing that we can do.
Well, and that's the professional thing. It's like, right, like you're saying, we're all I'm not. I've helped run. And this is why I bring it up, says I've helped run so many things. It's like,
sure.
I came out to San Antonio for the first time and went and competed. But if you were to call on me, we've done business with each other. But if you were to call on me and be like, hey, man, I want you to come to Texas. Can you help me run this tournament? Oh, my God, dude, I'll drive down there. I got a place to stay already, like with friends that I know. Like I'll run, set up, whatever, and it's like it's that I'm the little guy in on this. So that's why I ask these questions of like, how can we get this to go? Because here's what I see. And, you put it very frankly, and, it's like, we're all selling ice cream. You guys are all selling ice cream. I don't, Jody's got his own interesting flavor of ice cream. We'll just say that much. He's not really selling anything. He's over there in the vegan world, right? Of ice cream with the nonprofit. But yeah, like, it's really just unfortunate that the individuals can't just come together and be like, hey, you're not coming to Arizona State, you're not coming to the LLD, you're not going to 98, you're not going to Winter Blast. Cool, go ahead and go to that one. right? If
Sure.
you're a big name puller and they're like, oh, I want to come here, I want you to come here, I want you to come here. It's like, ah, man, you know what? I want to go to the, Florida's Nationals or the Florida's, championship. Cool, man, go. I'm rooting for you. Hope you do well.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, can I
Instead
say,
of like, oh, you shouldn't go because of XYZ. Now I understand, like, there's some bad blood. I know there's some bad blood in the Southwest between a couple of people. I know there's some bad blood between, in the Northeast with some people, and I get that, right? But at no point in time, and I know there's some bad blood between and some personal things, with some of us here in the chat. Not between us in the chat, but individuals in the chat, have bad blood with other people. But at no point in time have I heard from anybody in this group ever say, I don't like that person, you shouldn't go there. It's always been, I don't agree with what this person is doing, but you go ahead and enjoy yourself.
Yep. What you want to say? Go ahead, Brian, or you want to chime in on that one?
I wanted to throw something in because it goes along with what Lewis is saying and then the question he's asking. So, I've been promoting for a little while now, right? I'd say almost 4 years now. So, and I've done quite a few events, East versus West qualifiers. I did a couple of international events. I've done a bunch of stuff. So what I've always done, and it helps setting, it takes only 1 or 2 guys to start doing it and it can rub off. So what I've always done is I've promoted these other events, like M Spot, Red Leg Studios, when they were running all their events. I was sponsoring through it was great production, and I'm good personal friends with the guy. But I would sponsor it from through the fingers. So I was sending like 500 US and sponsoring it, and they were, giving us a commercial, and they're a promotion, being sponsored by another promotion. Mac 3. I sponsored. We did. I should say we. I have partners. We sponsored Mac 3 over in Toronto, right? Ian Carnegie. We sponsored Iron Core League. So this league's not my league. It's Lethbridge Club's league. Good friends of mine, Len Houghton and them. I gave $750 and bought belts for the master classes, and they say through the fingers as the sponsor on it. I help out with other events, you know what I'm saying. What I try to do is support the other events and promote them and sponsor them, because guess what? I'm doing that for all of them. So when I hold my event, guess what? All those events say, hey, you know what? Brian's always there. He's always supporting. We have to be there for Brian. And Len's even said it. Brian Corson coming to your event. You've always supported us. Our whole team's coming, right?
Well, and yeah,
you got to set the example. You can't just say, well, he's a hothead, he doesn't support me. You can't do that. You got to say, listen, you know what? I know we've had differences and stuff, but how about I sponsor you? A few $100, and maybe you can put us on something, right? If you start doing that and you start leading by example, and then you start succeeding, these other promoters might wake up, because when you draw a line in the sand, you're only hurting yourself. I said when Greg Stark said that ban shit, I said that was the worst thing he could ever do, and he'll never fully recover. I don't care if he's not banning people now. Once you put that line in the sand and you put something in a puller's head, you're done. Yep. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's human nature. I can't tell you how many people are just like, no, I'm not going to do a WSA. I'm never going to do a WSA. I can't support somebody that's banning other people.
Well, that's the thing. And us pullers, a lot of us are stubborn fuckers, right? So, pardon my language. A lot of us are stubborn. So, here's another thing too. I'm not going to say names of promoters, but let's say Arizona, right? You're getting guys going to certain events and they're getting phone calls saying, hey, you best not go to that event. You know what I mean? That, this guy, this promoter, you don't want to, you know what I mean? You support them, you're going to go to that event. When you start doing shit like that, you draw lines in the sand. Well, that's the problem down there. And I'm not from the US, but I've now been involved in some events in the US and stuff. And the biggest problem is promoter pride, and the way they put lines in the sand. They got to stop doing it. If they stop doing it and they start just saying, you know what, I'm going to promote that event. I'm going to promote his event. I'm going to promote his event. Then it turns into loyalty, and the pullers see it too, right? Yep. So that's how you build your name. You know what? all that matters is the respect of the pullers. If the pullers respect you, they will be there. They'll be at your event.
Well,
You
and
know
then
what I mean?
I'm gonna go back to what, because all you guys make great points, and what Billy said, because there are some people out there, whether it be a promoter, a friend of a promoter, what Billy said, and what you touched base on, and what even Lewis was saying. When you have those out there, and we all know who they are, I'm not going to mention names. We all know. They will sit there and say, hey, you should come to this event. And if the puller's like, hey, I'm already committed to go to that event, I told the promoter, because some of us, myself included, I'm pretty sure Billy's like this, and you guys too, man of your word. If I say I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. I'm not going to get swayed by extra money and stuff. And I know we can be fickle about that, because when it comes to money, the old saying, money talks. But when you have a person saying, hey, I'm committed to go to this event coming up down the road, but you're trying to tell me that, oh, you don't want to go there because A, B, C, and D, look what we can give you. Look what we can give you if you come to our event. Then now you're poaching people, and that's not fair when you got, guys and girls committed to this event. They told the promoter, I'm committed to your event. I will be there. But then you got the person on the shoulder over here saying, oh man, we got all this much money. You come, that ain't cool either. Right.
And then they break promises. Then they go thinking there's this big prize pool. And how many in the last 3 years, how many events went sour because there was these big payouts promised, and then people cancel other events, and they got the one that was it Kentucky? I don't know. I remember there was one event, and
was it Tennessee or something like that? And it was
Bishop and Hunter Knopf, all of them. They go, and then all of a sudden there's no prize money. You know what I mean? I think
I've been a part of that before. I can speak on not that particular moment.
You came here and it happened to you. Remember?
Yeah. And I think, and like I said, I'll get to this question from the Macho Man in a second, but I think what it is that when you have some promoters who only been promoting for a little bit, I would virtue to kind of take a step back and kind of watch how these men and women promote these events and watch, hey, what does it take to do this? Ask questions. But I think what happens, some of these promoters see all the big names. They see all the glitz and glamours, bells and whistles. Look who I got to come to my event. And then when it's all said and done, you're like, okay, you promised me money. I won first place. Pay up. Then you can't. Now you done pissed off the pullers. Yeah, you done pissed off everybody here. So now you're scrapping around, which is bullshit, But it's just that shit need to quit. But
yeah, so you had one event. You can say, hey, I had Gabby at my event. I had Jody Williams. I had Cody Merritt. I had Eli. I had all these guys, right? So I had them all at my event. But you know what? It was a one-time gig because now my reputation's shit and I can't hold another event. So what good is that? What good
exactly.
is that?
However, that person made good down the road. And I'll give up another example in a second. But
it doesn't matter though.
Yeah, you're right.
No,
Macho Man said,
you know what we call that? We say you just got Jeff Ricked.
Why would you stay on his birthday, man? Today's his birthday. What the hell, man?
Oh, shut up. Is it his birthday? Well, no, I'm just saying that's the saying. That's the saying people say. That's what everyone says here. You know what I mean?
Wow, his birthday.
Yeah, I didn't mean to. Sorry, Jeff, if you're watching, but that's what people say, right? Because the problem is that even if you make good on it down the road, Jody, your reputation's tarnished now. That got out through the whole community. Mm-hmm. You can make good on it down the road, like Knuckles Up. Knuckles Up. I heard that they paid a lot of the guys in that, and then look at the drama, and it broke those guys up because I heard they're not even together now.
No, they're not friends anymore. And
it took one event. It took one event to destroy everything.
Well, here's my thing about that. With that situation, and people need to understand this. And Macho Man, we'll get to your question. I promise you. The High Five guys, right? And Knuckles Up. You gotta understand this though. So the Arnold Classic was put on by the High Five guys. More often than not, a lot of people confuse the two. Yeah. The Arnold was separate from Knuckles Up. Ran by the same people, but separate. So a lot of people were asking me, hey, I qualified at the Arnold, and then they're saying, are they going to be Arnold? I'm like, why would it not? Well, so Knuckles Up. I'm like, stop right there, because Remember, the Knuckles Up fiasco took place in January, right? Earlier this year, whereas the Arnold took place in March after all that. And guess what? Everybody that went to the Arnold and got placed top 3 and got paid, they got paid. So that was different.
Yeah, but it wasn't different though. I disagree with you, Jody. I disagree with you. Because if it's the 2 guys that ran Knuckles Up, but it's totally separate Arnolds, I don't give a shit. I wasn't going to support the Arnolds until I heard people got paid from that event at Knuckles Up, because I'm not going to support 2 guys that fuck people on one. I'm sorry, I keep swearing. I don't mean to. I know it's daytime. I don't want to support
the show. It's my show. We're rated R. We're good.
Okay, okay, good. I don't want to support. I can't bring myself to support those guys because it's still the same 2 guys. And yes, it's separate. But if you got guys not paid from something else, and then you're going and still holding events, and there's guys unpaid, even though it's separate, it doesn't sit well with me. So, like, I'm going to just tell you, it does matter. Even though it's separate, it matters still. And I actually support Arnold's, and I liked what they did with Knuckles Up. They were good to the athletes till the last event. So
okay, so on that, I know Jody needs to get to Macho's question.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. So I know. So really, the biggest thing that I want to get to in all of this is the number one reason why the majority of us and what I've heard from, I would say almost 99% of promoters is, why did you start promoting? I wanted to see arm wrestling grow, right? I want to see this grow, right? So I'm not saying that you're being hypocritical, right? But it's like you yourself are not going to support them, but will you still stand on that same conviction and tell people not to go to it because of those 2 guys?
No, definitely not. But I might tell them to be wary though. Okay. I might say, yeah, you know what, go. It's a good opportunity, but you know what, make sure that you're confident. I don't want to see one of my friends or fellow pullers go somewhere and get screwed over. So like, I would say go still. It's a great opportunity. And I actually support, they paid up. From what I heard, they made good on that event. Sure. So I do support them because I think they did great things. I thought they treated the athletes really good. But until I heard that those guys got paid, I would say go, but I would say be wary. Make sure, what I mean? I don't want to see my friends get screwed over either.
And that's understandable to sit there and say, hey, I had this interaction. I want you to still go and poll. This was my interaction with them. Please don't let my personal interactions affect your opinion. Yeah. Right. Affect your decision to go there.
That's right.
Right. Because I think that's an even bigger issue that we're running into is we're letting my opinion, Jody's opinion, your opinion, Chance Shaw's opinion, whoever, all these different promoters, we're letting all these people's opinions sway somebody from getting that potential exposure.
Yeah, it becomes that line in the sand. That's why you said the hypocrite thing. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. What? I would never still tell a puller not to go. But my opinion came up because it's my opinion, right?
Sure.
But I'll share my opinion, but I don't share it to cause that line in the sand. I just share it because that's my personal opinion. You know what I mean?
Well,
but I understand what you're saying. I just can't say something else. If I think that's what I think, then I have to say it, right?
And that's understandable.
Here's the difference though, right? When you start to talk about ethical situations compared to personal feelings of a different promotion or person, like let's just say there's a couple of promoters that I don't like. I just don't like anything that they're, about or the things that I've heard. So I disassociate. I leave them alone, everything like that. And then there are promotions that just do things the wrong way, right? So
100%.
That's one of them, right? When you promise payouts and you don't pay people, that's a strong ethical issue where if Brian wants to say, hey, just so you know, they still haven't paid everybody from last event. I don't really classify that as, hey, don't go to that event because I don't like that guy.
Exactly.
And that's understandable, right? You're stating an opinion of fact, not you know,
Yeah,
not
it's not
you
just
know,
because I don't like that guy. I would never, because I don't like. Listen, I'll tell you, I'm not going to say his name, but I had a really bad beef with a guy here that runs a league here, and SB's good friends with him. And he blocked me on everything, and it started affecting the community because his numbers were starting to get, like, I think he only had like 60 entries at his one event. So like it started really affecting him. And I didn't want that. Like, you know what? Even though we didn't get along as people, I didn't want to take food off his plate. I didn't want to see him struggle. I didn't want to see, you know what I mean? So anyway, we found a way. We did a call, right? Actually, it was Ali Hamadia. You know him? He phones me three-way with his individual. We fought, told each other off, almost hung up 10 times. But at the end of the call, we agreed that, listen, it's best for the sport. That, so what? If we don't like each other, our personalities don't mesh. I don't like why he does things or whatever. It doesn't matter because it's starting to hurt the sport. So he lifted all the blocks and everything. I started promoting his events, and he actually said some really good things about me lately. And you know what? The whole beef now, it's less tension in the air. You know what I mean? Because it was that red line kind of, right? Yeah, because people tend to take sides, right? They tend to be like, you know what? He screwed Brian over really bad. You know what I mean? Or they'll be like, Brian screwed him over really bad because it's an opinion thing, right? So we managed to work out our differences, and it's great now. You know what I mean? So
good.
We got two questions. Oh, sorry, I mean to cut you off. We got two questions that need to be addressed. So question one from Macho Man: why do you think the promoters got to this point of not working together? I'm going to go ahead and kick this one off. I'm going to say probably greed and power, right? I think, not saying I'm right, so don't hold my word as the gospel, but I really think that, most promoters, I'll say most promoters, want their event to be the thing. They want to make sure, hey, I had a kick-ass event. You do everything possible to cater to the pullers. And when the pullers get the positive feedback from them, for you guys, the promoters, then they want to go, oh, man, all you hear is like good things about your event. Okay, now as a promoter, you want to go, what can I do to up the ante? It's almost like one promoter will set the bar, another one will try to raise it, and then another one will try to raise that one. And
that's nothing wrong with that either. That's good. Yeah.
The problem is, I think ego and pride comes in. It's like going, look, you know what?
That's more than green. Yeah, I think it's more than the swollen head pride. Yeah.
Well, I mean, go ahead, run it.
So I have put on one tournament. I held one tournament. I spent out of my own pocket, I think I did under $2,000 to get this tournament set up. I had some fortunate things for me. Somebody already had a venue. They said, we want you to run it here. You don't have to pay for this. So it's like I bought a PA system. I paid my referees, and I, had to pay for a program to get stuff, run, right? I spent under $2,000. I profited $750 on the
good.
thing.
You did one event, you profited. You know how many I lost? I came out negative on the first few events.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. Like, people see that it doesn't take but just a little bit of effort to actually get a tournament going. And then if you promote it properly, you bank.
Yeah.
And they see how easy it is to just sit there and be like, oh, I made an extra $750 after I paid everybody out. I made an extra XYZ after I paid everybody out. So they think that it's just so easy to make this money. No. So they grab and grab and grab. Yet I can tell you, I've worked for a couple different things. And you know what? At the end of the day, they're in the black.
Yep.
Or they're in the red. And it's like, hey, I'm really sorry. I'll just reimburse you for your gas money. It's like the things that have happened, they weren't able to come through. Me personally, I give my time and my effort and don't expect to always be paid, but there are some times where I'm like, I'm really hurting. I did a lot. I really need it.
Listen, I'm going to tell you one rule as a promoter. And this is why you get certain guys that look embarrassed and fail. You need to, when you hold an event, You have to be willing to take a loss. You have to make sure that everything is covered. You cannot base it. If you say, listen, I'm going to offer all this, but it's based on the entries because I think I'm going to get this many entries. You shouldn't be holding events. You need to make sure you have your ducks in a row. You know what? If you don't have sponsors, make sure you have your own money. But you need to, whatever's promised on that poster or for that event, you need to make sure it's covered before the event starts, regardless of entries.
Well,
if you're not willing, I just, this is my feeling. If you never commit to something, like, okay, I'll give you an example. I ran an event. We had Uzbekistan world team here. We did a big international event. We brought in all these world champs and everything from Uzbekistan. We didn't get, I had a lot of hiccups. For one, the planes all came. I ended up paying $6,000 for 2 master refs in the end because the plane cancellation. Yeah, because the plane that I booked for them, something happened and then they got stuck and they were like, I needed them there for one. It was a big event. I needed master refs. It was Dave Knox and Craig Sanders. But anyway, I ended up having to pony up $2,800 like now to fly them from there. So I flew them in, right? Then the medals and everything, I wasn't on me. It was on my partner at the time. He had a big hiccup and the medals didn't come through. And then anyway, anything that could have happened. So all our jerseys, we had jerseys for all the competitors. They ended up getting shipped to somebody's grandmother's house in Montana. And I don't know how it happened. It just happened that he was an arm wrestler and he got a hold of me. It was a fluke. But anyway, everything failed. I went home. I had to go home. So we did the event still. I had to tell all the competitors, listen, the medals will be mailed to you or mailed to your club, and your club will hand them out. That way I don't have to mail them to each individual. I would just say, this club, these medals are for this club. You know what I mean? And I said, and I went home and I took out, like, I don't know what I took, $4,000 in hundreds. And I started handing out $100 bills to the winners. I made sure everybody was paid. I was like probably $5,000 in the hole. The venue was $6,000. That venue was $6,000.
Do you guys remember? Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It's right. You have to production, bro. So you guys know what's his name? You guys would know his name. He's been in the arm wrestling scene. He's the arm wrestling, not Puller Magazine, but Puller TV, arm wrestling TV.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
Alex Top
No, not Alex Top Roll.
The guy that runs on TV?
Huh? Gary Roberts.
Gary Roberts, right?
Yeah.
He started
the original arm wrestling TV.
Do you remember?
Yes.
He has it in his video. He used to take out cash advances on his credit cards.
Yep.
Yeah.
To run arm wrestling tournaments, to make cash payouts. So I definitely, like, again, I'm small time. I did it one time, and I was like, if I wanted to get bigger, this is going to cost me a lot. It's like, that's commitment, to sit there and say just for the growth.
So, if you're doing it just to make money, if you think you can just call an event and you're just going to have all these entries and you're going to make all this money, you're set. You're just doing it yourself anyway. It takes time. You have to build your reputation over
consistency, reputation. Exactly.
Yes. And if you don't, and the reason I said you have to be paid, Lewis, is because that will forever sit with you. Because the next time I hold an event, you'll be wondering if you get paid or not. Right.
Well, and here's the thing: it's like, I have the utmost respect for all of the individuals, and to me, I don't care. This is me personally.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let it's because I've been taken care of in other ways too. So, I'm not, just because I didn't get paid that time around and I had to, tell my wife, oh yeah, no, I got paid. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I've done the same
when
thing.
I didn't, to me, I don't care.
Right.
To me, I really don't care, because I love that individual as a brother, as family. And there has been the most amazing opportunities and the most amazing experiences from that person that no amount of money can make.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. It trumps the situation. But what if it wasn't that guy though? What if it was just a guy that wasn't close to you like that? Would you feel the same?
If it wasn't, and it was like, this is and it's on a handshake and like, hey, you come out, I want you to do XYZ, and I'll pay you $250 for your 8-hour day, and then I get Jude.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm never going to work for him again.
That's right. So I know what you're saying. Your personal opinion, because you have that close bond with that individual, that's your position. But I'm saying it's not always like that. You're not always going to have that bond with that promoter.
No,
and the thing is that sucks is promotions. These promoters don't realize every little thing adds up. All it takes is for a couple pullers to leave your event, and they're disgruntled over something. And then the next event, it's a couple different pullers that are disgruntled over something. Before you know it, you're trying to do your 5th event, and you're wondering why you don't have any friggin' entries. Because you know what? You haven't on. Listen, Billy has run so many events. He knows, right? Like you have to have your ducks in a row. Not everybody is made to be a promoter.
No.
It's not an easy thing.
There it is. There's the phrase that pays right there, Brian. I'm glad you brought that up. I was told a long time ago by somebody I respect in the arm wrestling community. She told me not everybody's a promoter, you know. So here, I'll say this. Why do I respect the TAL so much? Because, and don't take this the wrong way, Billy, but you guys stay in your lane where you don't have all this animosity. You guys know who you are. This is what we do. Take it or leave it. And I wish a lot of promoters would have that kind of attitude because, like I said, I don't live in Texas. You know more than I do. And Sarah Ray's in the chat. Maybe she knows she can speak on this too. I think she's on the board. But y'all stay in your lane. But you know, because technically y'all don't have to do anything but focus in Texas. And here's the thing. When you guys have your Texas state, and this is another reason why I like this, because, and stop me if I'm wrong, please correct me, Billy, but when you have Texas State, the best part about that is that happens at the end of the year. You got all the qualifiers leading up to that. And I don't care if it's San Antonio, Lubbock, Austin, Fort Worth, Waco, whatever. And then you have all the qualifiers, and all of a sudden y'all come together. And I think this year's in El Paso, I believe. And then that's Texas State. If you don't qualify there, cool. We have another qualifier a couple months later. You can go to that one. So you have all these qualifiers that you could attend to. And I like the format because you're not stepping on toes. It's kind of like Texas is its own thing to a certain degree. Because you guys, like I said, you guys stay in your lane. This is what we are. This is who we are. Take it or leave it. If I'm wrong, by all means, correct me, Billy.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong. So, I mean, really the idea behind is actual, it's a league concept, right? And that was what it was going forward, is that we would have X number of events leading into a championship, you know, and, you know, you would, each region would have we split Texas up into 5 different regions. Each region would have an event. One region would hold Texas State every year. And that's why it's been in rotation. That will change starting next year. We will keep Texas State more centralized in Texas to maximize the turnout and availability for that, you know, for pullers for that. But that's the mentality of the league. I know there are a lot of people out there that have league on their promotions and stuff like that, but we're really trying to focus on. It's like playing a city, you know, like playing like in a city league, right? You have all these games that you know what's going to happen leading up to it, and at the end of it, you're going to have a championship, and it's a season, and it's going to start over again, and it's a rinse and repeat, you know. So you're right about that. Now the qualifier thing, that was a little bit. We dropped the qualifier stuff because they never really were a qualifier in the sense that everybody thinks about it being that way. It was just that if you won your pro class, you qualified for free entry at Texas State.
Okay.
But it was they were open to everybody. And Texas,
could you get drama?
Open to everybody, whether you attend one of our events or not. You can come shoot into Texas State. Now, like going back to this, you know, why don't promotions work together more? It's just like with anything else. It's just like with business, right? You know, there's only so much we're going to be able to do together before there's conflicts, and how we handle that conflict, I think, is really the key. You know, when 2 promotions clash on something because they're bumping heads over maybe an event or anything like that, how that gets handled and how that gets transposed out to the community is the key, right? So we have a goal in Texas. Like our model is our regionals move forward. Everything moves forward, until Texas State, right? And that's how we fund Texas State. Now, since we started, we got our start kind of in the midst of COVID when there was nothing going on, and there were very few tournaments leading into that, right? So the landscape was open for us when TAL first started. Us throwing our events was not a problem. And then, I think the unfortunate side for us is Texas is so big that you have smaller demographics. Well, we want an event over here for us, and we want an event over here for us. And, Texas is too big to travel across all this. And, so we get promotions that start to spawn up, and we get outside promotions that come in and stuff like that. And then like, just for instance, it's like this, like there's a promotion out in East Texas, Jerry Duro, he's been throwing events. And I think for a little while, and he probably still, maybe he's upset with me or whatever like that. Because I've said, the pullers got to decide what they want. If they want 5 tournaments every weekend in the state of Texas, all around the Texas, where, 10, maybe 15 pullers attend each, it's like cornhole game on the weekend, right?
Yeah.
Then they can have that. But don't expect kick-ass medals. Don't expect, payouts.
What about competition?
Yeah, the level, it has to conform with the number of events we have, right? So it's just like this. And Jerry came on and we talked, and I'm like, Jerry, I don't care if you throw 10 events in East Texas, but just know that those events affect our turnout, and I have got to take into consideration how our model needs to change moving forward. Like if our events decline because of all these other events, which just is what it is, then I've got to change them. I got to do something different because sponsorships are not always there. Turnout gets lower. That means less income and stuff like that. And so maybe Texas State doesn't do payouts anymore because of this.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys run into that. I don't know how you run into that, because here, honestly, all I've seen in 3 years is growth at any event that's been on the same, like that is scheduled the same for the last 3 years. I've only seen massive growth in numbers. So I think honestly, you have to just stay in your, and I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry, Billy.
No, you're good.
If you stay in your lane and you worry about you and you do the best you can and fulfill your vision and stop thinking about the other promotions, things will just be natural. They will be natural. And those other promotions, that I don't know. That's what I find. And I support the other promotions, and I get those people at my events. But I mean, I understand if it's every weekend and it's constant, you're going to have problems. You can't have 5 events in the same area every weekend like that. You're right. It would never work. Right. It just wouldn't work. It would just hurt. It hurts the overall. For one, it hurts the pullers because the level of no puller wants to go somewhere where there's no competition, for one. I want to pull the best people.
I think there's an argument for that, though, on the kind of the flip side. We don't have to get
into
that.
Know. That's how I am. I want to pull the best.
There are some guys like myself where I'm just going to beat every small guy I can and just be the best in my league.
But those are the guys that never. Yeah, but those are the guys that never actually level up themselves because they're not pulling. They're not pulling quality pullers. You can only. You have to feel.
The reason why I think super match pulling is so popular right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Tony Thomas got pinned on the left hand last weekend, just so you know.
Oh, wow.
Jody, you know Sean Crowther? First round of the tournament, he pinned Tony Thomas and left.
Yeah. Really?
Yep.
That speaks volume. Guys, I'm going to ask a question that I know everybody's going to have something to say in the chat. I know you 3 guys are going to have something to say, and it kind of involves Brian and it kind of involves Billy. Okay, so this is where I might get a bunch of hate. People might get off the show, or I might get a lot of people to come on the show. Here we go. All right, you ready for this? Now,
yes.
Nationals. Okay, you can understand where I'm about to go with all that. Okay,
I know exactly.
Once upon a time, I thought that was the thing I really wanted. Right. And, we all have our issues. Canada, you have issues because to go to WAF, you guys have to go out of your country to win a national to pull for your country at a world title. Dumbest thing I ever
Mexico.
heard. But that's something else, right? Yeah, that's the stupidest thing ever. I have to go out of my country to qualify for my country.
But if you're buddies with Joey Costello or Simon, you got to go anyway, even if you didn't go qualify.
It's don't even get me started on that. But you know, if you want to go there, we can go there. But
no, I didn't want to. I just threw it in there.
We probably will anyway. But nationals, like I said, once upon a time, it meant something. You know, and there were times I got wrapped up in the super match pulling and this, that, and the other, or I was involved in another tournament where I couldn't go to a national. But it used to be the running joke for us United States, because once upon a time we had 3 nationals from 3 different promotions, but we all knew one of them was the path to the World Championships, right? So, like I said before, 2017, it was one national, right? Now, you got the IFA national. That path goes to IFA Worlds. You got the Unified National. That path goes to the WAF. And now this is where Billy comes in, because now with the AUA, and I thought, with Sean Hancock and the rest of the guys, I was like, okay, what do I see? Is the bigger goal to have one national? If that's the case, I'm on board, because I support that. If it's just one national. However, I saw a date sometime next summer. There's going to be an AUA national. And I thought, okay, that might muddy up the water, because now it's like, where does that national go? We had the PAF.
Not a real national.
Right. I mean, Anthony Leterio had the PAF nationals held in the southeastern part of the United States. I'm like, you called it a national, but it didn't go anywhere. Right. So it's kind of like, okay, you just muddying up the water, because now it's like,
call any tournament nationals if you want.
Well, I think we just use that word too loosely now. I think I'm not going. Okay, let's just say, for example, the goal is to get to one national for the AUA. Okay, where are you going after that? You're not going to any kind of worlds, because it's not affiliated with any one of those organizations.
Doesn't need to.
Yeah. So
national,
where do we go?
I think this is the problem, and I didn't think this at first, but the more I thought about it, it made more sense to me. Why does a true national have to lead anywhere? Why can't it just be you're a national champion of that nation?
I'll tell you why. Because you got 4 fucking nationals every year. So
I get that.
Which one is the one? Yeah, no, I know what Jody's saying. He's saying, listen, I want to go to nationals, and when I win my class, I am number 1 in the US.
Yep.
And you don't have that. You don't have it because you got too many nationals, and they don't really count towards anything.
Well, but dude, I mean, here's the thing. In my thought process of this, those are just world qualifier tournaments. They're not nationals.
No,
they're clearly not nationals, right?
But
and they ride on the fact that they just call themselves nationals, but their claim to fame is a path to the worlds, right? So it's really not. I mean, we've talked about it before. Jody's been really outspoken about this. If you attend one, you're in.
Thanks, Ifa.
Yeah. But what if you go to a nationals? What if you have 4 and you go to this nationals, but the best pullers are going to this nationals, and now you go to this nationals and you win easily because the comp is so watered down, and you can claim to be national champion, but you didn't even pull anybody of significance.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to happen.
I'm just throwing that out there,
No, you're right. I mean, look, those dynamics are going to happen across any tournaments, right? It's just like when I hold this Texas State out in El Paso. There's going to be some guys from East Texas that are killers that ain't going to show up, and someone's going to claim a state champ in a class they couldn't have hold a match to one of these other guys. It just happens like that sometimes.
I know.
You got two
weird for me is I'm a puller. I'm a full-time professional arm wrestler. I'm a promoter, and I'm a certified ref. So I look at it from reffing. I look at it from a puller standpoint. I look at it from a promoter standpoint, and I mesh the 3 together because I'm full-time on all 3 of them. Right. So
I'm the outside guy, because all of you guys promote. I've done it one time. So my experience is limited.
You've been in it enough, though.
I have. I've done plenty. I've been all over, United States having some fun with it. My thing is like, if we could, right, when we talk about nationals and we have a path to nationals, Jody and I touched on this and this was another reason of getting you guys together and talking about this, is we have our several different leagues, right? We got the TAL, we got the UAL, we've got FAL. What's our other ones? You know, the boys up there in the north, you know, the east, northeast. You know, we've got our different things, right? But what truly is our biggest tournament in the United States?
Winter Blast.
Mhm.
Exactly. So, how can people like yourself, Billy, people like Chance, people like Billy, or not Billy, Bill, get together to work with Winter Blast to call Winter Blast our nationals?
It's easy. Like Sean Boom Hancock, he's heavily involved. He's in our chat for 98. Now we're okay. So you know what it takes? It takes for the promoters to swallow their differences and come together. So listen, I did join the 98. Now people said, why would you do that? Why would you even pay for a franchise? Why would you grow? You know what? I still plan on doing events outside the 98, but my league that I've started with the 98 is because you got a chance to bring all the states and all the provinces and all North America together. Now, you know what? Do I agree with everything and do I like everything about it? No, but I see a pathway to bring it to unify the sport. Like, you know what I mean? Where we have representation in every state and every province. Now, right? You got Winter Blast, they run. It's the biggest tournament, just like you said. Now we can have Winter Blast. We can have Winter Blast everywhere because 98 will be in every state, every province, right? Different promoters, and these promoters aren't 100% all in just 98. Like I said, I'm looking at doing a couple different events that are going to be private ventures, but I still started the 98 through the Fingers League here because I see something. Because when you mesh all the states together, all the provinces, because Canada, we got some killers. And if we can start incorporating that in with the United States, that's going to be huge. So you talk about a nationals. Well, what about if you got let's just say it's 98 that succeeds with it. You got a 98% in every state and every province in North America. You can have a true North American nationals because you can have representation from every state and every province.
Well, and right,
and that's
called the North American Championships, Brian. That's why we have. And problem is, we got two of them. It's like, you know, like we don't. And
maybe soon to be three.
Go ahead. Three, right?
Well,
so it's kind of like.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some rumblings, so we'll see.
I'm just saying. Well, then you know, people talk about the ranking systems. I like Corey's system, and we're going to use it. It's part of the deal that I have to use Corey's system for the events I run through the 98.
Just the brackets, yeah.
Yep, that's right. And you know what? I think it's great, and I love Corey's system. And I think that as information gets entered, plus Corey has told me, so I have access to the last 30 years of events in Canada, and Corey has told me we got green lighted to enter all that data into Aries, right?
Nice.
Or what do you call it, Airs? I don't know exactly.
Airs.
Something different. Yeah. So Kathy Morrison, she has kept every bracket from every event possible. Well, especially from Alberta, right? So we'll be able to enter all that data information in, and I love that system. But it's a point-based system for one, and it doesn't truly tell you who's number one. It doesn't really tell you the official rankings. It's more about participation. It's a part of who's more active, basically.
Because it's not ranked. And that's exactly right. Because
I'm
not
ranked
a ranking.
really low. My participation this year was next to zero.
Yeah.
I like it because you can personalize your stuff. You can go in there, and if everything's turned in, you can kind of go, okay, what is my record in this weight class and that weight class? You can kind of see your personal growth. Now,
it's statistics stat for all the pullers. Yeah.
The North America the In the Hook rankings is more based on Canada and United States combined. I don't think it's even here. I'll tell you why that's a flaw, in my opinion. The Arm Fighter is just United States. That's more active with people who actually on the board does that. That's more accurate as far as activity. Now, in the hook rankings, and I've always made this argument. Everybody in the chat, please don't hate me. Guys, don't hate me. But when I make this point, you understand why I have some issues with it. Now, when I say this is not going against any particular puller. But if you were to hop off, whether you're on the show or not, go to In the Hook Rankings on Facebook. Go look at the super heavyweight right-handed class. If I'm Austin Jaggers, ranked number 6, there is no way I'm going to go higher. You want to know why? Because the 5 guys preceding him all put internationally. And I don't foresee them pulling in the States anytime soon against one another unless it's for a bigger promotion with lots of money involved. That is it. How does Austin, if Austin really cared about the rankings, how does he go up? He can't. Because I guarantee you, any one of those 5 guys ahead of him is not going to want to pull him. It's like, nah, I'm focused on international pullers. Guaranteed.
Yeah, but the premise of In the Hook Rankings is flawed because for one, it's opinion based, and for two, like you're saying, like here, our rankings, we're not perfect. I'm trying to make changes. I'm part of the AAA board here, like Albert Arm Sport. We're doing our best to make it right, but the thing is if someone's inactive for a certain period of time, they get removed from the rankings here. They don't even stay on the rankings. You haven't pulled in a certain amount of months. You are now void. You're not on the rankings. And then the second you know what I mean, you compete, you get yourself back on the rankings, right? But you're not on, you lose that. So you can't just go you can't just disappear for 2 years and be number 7 in Canada. You just can't do it. Like you'll be removed because you're inactive.
So do we think, just stepping away from the rankings thing is getting back to what we're doing here.
It's a whole nother show.
Yeah, we can talk areas and rankings.
I know, rants.
Right. So if we could, as individuals, and this is where it's like the whole premise of doing this is to hopefully, get our thoughts and opinions out there to spark that hopeful difference of opinions and from all these promoters to sit there and say, okay, we all started this originally because we wanted to see the sport grow. If we could just get back to those roots and say Winter Blast is if that's what we're all agreeing on, just us, other people may have a difference of opinion. And there again, that can be hammered out. If we're all agreeing Winter Blast is the biggest national United States tournament every year, if that's the case, how can we work together to promote that for them to promote us, right?
I don't have a problem with that.
I can touch base on that.
You guys are doing your league. You're doing your league. You're doing your thing. You qualify for Texas State. Your entry is paid for. Okay. You win Texas State.
Situation for that. Yeah. I don't have a problem creating something for that. Just to kind of interject here. When TAL first started, we did what was called a Champions Fund, and our ranking system here in Texas was based on super matches alone. So when a challenger made a challenge to somebody in the rankings, they paid $20, and that money went into a fund. And every year we would divvy that out amongst people that wanted to go to nationals, right? And then the Pursuit of Worlds. I discontinued that like 2 years ago because nobody went to nationals anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cared about going to nationals anymore.
I'll tell you why. I'll go a step further. So I think a lot of it has to be promotion. Here's my thing. So, and like I said, I'm not trying to rag. These are just the facts. So if it's the facts, it's not really tarnishing nobody. When you go to Unified Nationals, right, the one that goes to WILD, you can't sit there and just promote it a month and a half from the date. No. If it's that important, which is why if you look at our Team USA, is relatively small, and with that being said, not only is it small, but it's like half the people in that photo didn't even go to nationals that year. So what the fuck does that even mean? So people don't go because the promoter, whoever's in charge, don't feel it's that important to where, look at Denise. Denise has her shit dialed in a year in advance. She promotes the hell out of her shit, which is why IFA Nationals is a lot more prevalent than the other one because the other one doesn't promote. That's just the way it is, right? As it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. Now, one of the things we can do, and this goes back to Lewis's question, is that if the promoters would use all the energy, not all, if the promoters, not all the promoters, will use the energy to sit there and backstab each other and step on each other's toes to climb the way to the top, if they took that energy and put it into helping one another, support one another, then maybe we wouldn't have all these problems, you know, but it's not because
Jody. It takes an example, though. It takes someone doing it. So we talk about it, we talk about it, we talk about it. So all it has to be is one promoter just says, you know what? I don't give a shit now. I'm just going to do it. I don't like that guy or whatever. I don't like that, but I'm going to do my best to promote it. I'm just going to be loud and proud. Not, you know, that's a weird, you know, I know they use that phrase for something else, but just be proud about arm wrestling and don't care and do what you're saying, because you have to lead by example. And if no one's doing it, why should no one else is going to want to do it either? So
exactly.
I mean, how do you change it? I think Billy's right. I think that there's a poison in arm wrestling that keeps us. Every time we take 2 steps forward, we have to take 3 steps back because of something. Even East versus West, we've seen it.
Oh God.
A drama, a little fucking drama. It almost destroyed everything. You know, it didn't. I'm thankful. Things are going forward. Everything's good now. The drama's settled down. But you know, like even the top, a little drama, even at the top, can just trickle effect and destroy it. You know, like that's the problem. We get so close to being almost mainstream, and it's not the sport, it's the people running it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you want to succeed. I know for a fact what I'm doing is working. We know, like through the fingers, we've done everything. We've even sponsored athletes. And you know, there's a guy, I don't know where he's from, Nicholas Mode. Have you heard of him?
Oh yeah.
He lives in my state.
Yeah, so he's been very nice to the channel and he did a lot. So I ended up sponsoring him and I paid for an event. I sponsored him for an event, like to actually go and perform. And if he won, he was going to get up there and rep through the fingers and everything else. But it's the little things, right? It's just supporting the community, and you have to lead by example. And that's it. That's all you can do. You can't worry about what the next guy's doing because you have no control over it.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is why it goes back to why I respect the TAL, because I don't see Billy or anybody else on that committee constantly looking over their shoulder to see what's that promoter doing. Like, don't worry about
Don't get me wrong. I'm watching everybody. I watch everybody.
Oh, I'm sure.
But it doesn't get to a point where
it's not about what they're doing. It's about what I need to do in response to that.
Yep. And I agree with that too, right? Like, yes, I'm very OCD. So I know all the pullers. I know across North America, even the guys that don't really have a name. I know, I've seen them. I know them. Like, and I see the promotions. I see the infighting because I'm on certain boards and stuff. And I was on that big conference call with Simon last year where we were talking about the bands, right? And all his promoters were on it. Were you on that, Billy? I think you might have been.
I think so. Yeah.
It was like me, you, Tim, freaking Corey Miller. There was a whole bunch of us on that. But see, and then you kind of see what's going on, right? You kind of see like that whole band thing. That wasn't a WAF problem. That was a promoter problem because we had promoters policing other people's events and little ratting going on and phone. You know what I mean? That's you know what? We have to nip that in the bud. That's poison. So we have to let people know if you see that going on or you hear that, you need to just not. You need to avoid that. That's the.
I go as simple as this. Like, I have people call me and say, hey, this person is at this other person's event and they're wanting to pull amateur or whatever like that. Something as small as that, I go, it's not my event.
Yeah.
I don't care if they pull amateur. If they let them pull amateur at that event, cool.
That's on them. Yeah. That's on them.
So it goes as small as that. Like
that's the poison. That's the toxicity in our sport.
Yeah.
Right.
Back to Lewis's deal. I would totally create a path through Texas if that was what the consensus came to, and it was Winter Blast or something like that, but like for IFA Nationals, because that's where most people went, nobody gave a shit. 95% of the people that go to the Nationals don't care about going to Worlds.
Yeah. And not only that, you know what, IFA's got to change some things too, because it's too watered down. It's also watered down. So listen, if I go to Nationals, it doesn't matter how I place, I can go to Worlds.
Yep.
Yeah, which I
So
don't know.
how's that a true world? That's a saturated, that's a watered down world. That's why IFA got a bad rep.
If I go, I plan on going to IFA Nationals this year.
Okay, so if you finish fifth, Jody, if you finish fifth, do you feel comfortable going and representing at Worlds?
No.
So there's my point.
If I place top 3, then I personally, in my opinion, I think if I'm on the podium, I feel like I should go to Worlds. But if I'm not, then no. So look here, I just had this conversation last week, and here's my thing. This is just me talking because I'm an old school competitor. If the rule says that I can go to IFA Worlds, all I got to do is show up to Nationals. If I go 2 and out, I don't deserve to be on Team USA. End of.
Yeah, well, none of that. Or what we got to get away from participation trophies too. Well, arm wrestling is gone soft. We have to stop that. That I don't know. Maybe I might.
No. I got you. I don't like. I came from an era where the fucking straps were Velcro. Fuck, man. It was like it was more about who was going to be there. I want to pull that person so I can kind of get that elite. I mean, that's what it was back then.
This.
Yeah.
Now it's this. Now it's this. So it's so money based that like I said, participation trophies. Why? Because you're going to get his $50 or $60 at that entry. Like, I don't know. Like, we have to have standards, and we have to make it professional. We want to be professional and be taken serious. We have to act professional. And you know what? The drama and the gossip and all these little promotions, it just makes us look so bad.
And I think part of that too is like the rest of the world falls under one governing body, right? WAF. Mm-hmm. Every single tournament, you go to Latvia, you go to Italy, you go to Bulgaria, you go to Uzbekistan, you go Germany. Every single one of those is WAF. And they all fund. Say again?
I said I find that more dictatorship because
I agree.
I know.
I don't like I said, like I don't disagree, right?
There's a standard though.
Right, there's a standard though, and that's where you're right. I agree with that.
Right, WAF is the standard. I'm not saying the United States has to be under one governing body of arm wrestling. Like, I'm sorry, we're American. That's just not going to happen. Don't tread on me, kick rocks, right? We're just too bullish, too bullheaded to do anything like that. But
and that's why WAF doesn't care about North America, because WAF, for one, we don't pay them anything. For one, they don't get no money. These other countries, I know a guy. He's a big name. He ran an event, and he ran a WAF event. They came in and took everything. They took everything. He didn't make any money on the event. WAF took all of it, and they overseed it and everything. And he did the event. He didn't even make anything.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't need to be under like one governing body, but we need to have a standard rule set. We need to have a standard weight set. We need to have it needs to be like if we're going to be serious about this and we're going to run a nationals. And we're just going to use the example. TAL has got its pathway to Winter Blast. FAL's got its pathway to Winter Blast. Arizona State is a pathway to Winter Blast. Washington State's a pathway to Winter Blast. Other tournaments, like, there has to be a standard. This is what it is. This is where we're going with it. Now, mind you, go ahead and run. Everybody else in the world can run. Everybody else in the United States can run 15, 10, 20, 30 different tournaments throughout the year. But we know that these specific organizations, these specific promoters are running these events to pay for your entry to Winter Blast.
You know why I like that? Because those 3 promotions you just mentioned can be regional too. Like if you say Arizona State, that can take care of the West. If you say Texas, that can take care of the Midwest and Southwest. If you say FLA, that'll take care of the Southeast. So, and somebody up north can probably have one too. And it all goes to Winter Blast, because we all know every year Winter Blast is always toward the end of March, period.
Right. And we can still run, and you can still run Arnold's, because a lot of people want to go to Arnold's because there's always good competition at Arnold's. So there's no stepping on toes with that. So it's like you can still have
a qualifying event anyway.
But how do you?
Yeah,
okay, I agree with you, Lewis. But how do you? You know what? The only way we can achieve it is if the main promoters come together and we make some kind. And this is going to be a big argument anyway. But you have to have a sanctioning body then. So you have to have a set. You have to be like, these are the weight classes. If you know what I mean. And like, if you want to come together and do that, there has to be a sanctioning body. Like we brought up WAF. They have their set weight classes. They have their, you know what I mean? Their set rules,
Okay.
set everything
So
else.
we
Somehow we have to come together and agree on that. We have to agree on the weight classes, agree on the rule sets, agree on all this, and somehow create a sanctioning body that sets a standard, right?
Well,
okay, well,
but
we have the groundwork.
that
for
was
it.
one of the things too that that's kind of the direction we wanted to go with AUA, right? And
100%.
the main purpose with AUA was not necessarily to be, we weren't going to try to be a dictatorship or anything like that.
No, not dictatorship. Just
But what we wanted was, hey, Jody looks on a promotional flyer from some event somewhere, doesn't matter where, and he sees the AUA logo.
Yep.
Then he already knows that promoter is going to do X, Y, and Z. If they're promising payouts, they're going to pay out.
Yep.
They're going to have strict weigh-ins. They're not going to have somebody coming in and taking off in the bathroom. You know, all of a sudden he was 10 pounds over, and now all of a sudden they stripped him down, and now he makes weight. You know, there are going to be at least a subset of standards that you could guarantee if you saw that logo on the deal.
Yeah.
And eventually we would work up to that, right? Everybody, let's talk about transitioning to the same weight classes. Let's talk about transitioning to a one across the board standard rule set.
Well, and the nice thing, go ahead. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
you.
but no, that was kind of the direction we were going with AUA. It was like, when you come to Texas, unless it's a complete mistake, you can bet that I'm not letting anybody in that class that doesn't make the scale say what it's supposed to say.
Well,
so if you're a cutter,
there doesn't have to be any money transitioned between. Let's just use the AUA, right? There doesn't have to be any money exchanged from one promoter to the other promoter. Period. It is the athlete. The promotion is giving it to the athlete to go to that promotion.
With AUA, there's zero money transition. We just say, hey, look.
So we don't have to have a governing body. We just have to have a set of rules.
Yes. Yeah. Well, agreed. And the thing is that we need to come together. I think it's really important. I liked Ryan's little idea, but see, it never worked. Of a board where the promoters all come together and we do conference calls.
It doesn't even have to be a board of promoters coming
together.
together.
But there has to be a consensus. We have to come to a consensus.
Sure, there has to be a consensus. Right. Yeah. You know, Billy can reach out to Tim and Chance, and like they can all get together. Obviously, you and just be like, all right, we are the big 5 promoters in the United States. This is what we want to do. We want to use Winter Blast. You know, and this is my call to you guys then. I mean, this is literally my call. This is my call. I'm calling out Tim. I'm calling out Chance. I'm calling out Derek. I'm calling out you, Billy. I'm calling out, everybody across the United States that runs a 400+ entry tournament every single year.
Oh, well, then you can kick me out then.
No, but I think what he's trying to say is that you have a big enough following.
I'm joking around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. What I mean. Texas is so widespread.
I can't wait for that day. I can't
wait.
Well,
that and you know what that would do for the poll. You know what? Like I said, going back earlier, if promoters just really they have to realize the pollers, they decide so much, right? And if everyone's working together and the pollers are happy and there's union and there isn't these lines in the sand, everybody will prosper. Everybody will.
Well, that's what I'm saying. To get to Nightmare's question here, he says, without a governing body or standard, then the difference of opinions will. Right. Of course, there's always going to be a difference of opinions. And the goal is to not go back to square one. It's to move forward in the sport. And that's always what it's always been, is to move forward. Right. To where we can get that to that next level. Because I'll tell you right now, if all the promoters can come together, this is my vision, and this is just my opinion, but this is what I see happening. If all the promoters can come together, we create one nationals, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be just like what happens with the UFC, because you've got the UFC, right? Everybody wants to go to the UFC, but
Yep.
what other organizations do you have under the UFC that still get good promotion, still get televised, right? To then
There's a few.
that individual then gets that approach from that contract, right? So I'm not saying like it needs to go so big, but it's like if you're winning nationals, if you're winning TAL every year, if you're winning FAL every year, you're winning Arizona State, you're winning Washington State, well, and then you go and you compete at Winter Blast. Well, let's say you don't get winning, you're not winning, but you're placing, you're doing well, you're making a name for yourself. Well, who's to say that East vs. West isn't going to reach out to you? Who's to say that, Mac isn't going to reach out to you?
What about
right?
What about Tough League? Did you guys watch
Tough
that
League.
team league? Did you watch
Right.
the team
Oh,
league?
over the weekend? Woo,
Yeah.
I love that. And by the
buddy,
way,
that's huge. That's going to be huge.
there's
That's what
four,
I'm saying.
maybe 4 teams in the
That's
state
where we
too.
want to see our competitors go. That's where, like, if I commit myself to arm wrestling, what's my end goal, right? And am I just going to be an average competitor?
You want the promoters to create a pathway for you. You want to have a path.
Right.
It's like when Ingen started East versus West, when he blocked me and banned me from everything. I said, Ingen, you know what? You've given people, like back before UFC, there was fighters, there was underground fighting, but UFC, you know what it did? It gave them something to dream and train for and work their way up, and hopefully one day they can make it. And East versus West, I said, did the same thing. I said East versus West now has given a pathway to success. So when you're successful, you can dream about being on that East versus West stage, right?
And
But
you've got
I
to
think
have those stepping stones.
yes, you
gotta
need
have
stepping
those
stones. I agree. I
TAL is
agree.
one of those stepping
100%.
stones. FAL is one of those
Yep.
stepping stones. Arizona State, Washington State, those are all stepping stones. Winter Blast, that's a stepping stone. And that's a stepping stone to the next level, which is MAC, tough.
Or Arm Gods. Arm Gods is
Arm
promoting Arm Gods. Marcus said that they're going to be taking top guys from 98%. And they wanted that unity because Arm Gods, listen, they're not huge or nothing, but you know what? They pay your travel. They give you $500 US. They make sure you're paid up front. There's no, and Jody knows this because he's been there, right?
Yep.
They look after the guys. So they're smart. They're already saying, we see that 98 has got there's 9 franchisees now. So that means there's 8 states and 1 province in the 98 now. There's some unity. Like I said, I didn't agree with everything with the 98, but I see a pathway to unity. And that's why I joined, right?
Well, not only that, but I think if the promoters, and like you said there's a perfect statement. You said you didn't agree with what they did, but you saw the bigger picture. So in hindsight,
yeah,
right. Here's the bigger picture. It's about the sport itself, the pullers. If a promoter doesn't like this promoter because the way you wear your hair or the way you put on your pants, whatever the fuck, it doesn't fucking matter because that right there has no issue with the fucking bigger picture as we're talking about. Like, put down your weapons. Say, hey, I'm not saying you got to fucking go have a drink with them. I'm not saying you got to go sit down and have a meal with them. No one's saying that. For the greater of the sport, let's go ahead and fucking say, let's do this. So, like Lewis said, if you got TAL, covers that region. Florida covers that region. If Arizona and Washington State, that takes care of the whole West Coast right there. And then whatever, if you want to say add in the Canada, if Brian wants to put together something up there, that'll take care of that region. And we all have that say, hey, I got my calendar marked for Winter Blast because I know it's going to be there. Can you imagine? And they get 497 entries already. Can you imagine if we implement this game plan in there, how big that would be? It have to be a fucking 2-day event, which is good because it's all about competition. That's what you want. That's what we all strive. Hell, I think a lot of times, not all, but I think a lot of us forgot why we got into the sport. And I think, we tend to mimic what we see above us. What I mean by that is that when we see the elite, we tend to mimic what they do. But you got to remember, those people we see on the elite stage have paid their dues and they've been there, done that. And you got a lot of people on the next tier down and the next tier down from that want to be up there. See what's in your yard first, work your way up to that. If that's your path.
So listen, like I've been speaking a lot today, and it might be even out of place because we don't have the same problems you guys have. Like we only got 40 million people in our country, right? You guys got what, 400 million now? Like, it's a lot.
I think it's like 380, something like that. Yeah.
So like, you know, our local weekend events pull in anywhere from 180 to 300 entries. Those are your little small events. Okay. Our big events, our nationals, are anywhere from 600 to 1,000. Or I think we've had almost 1,100 at a nationals here. Our provincials low end 300 entries, but we've had 400 or 500 entries at provincials. We like our numbers reflect the unity here. Like, you know what I mean? Even though we do have some grapes and there is promoter grapes here, it's so small compared. There's no reason why, with a population of 380 million to our 40 million, that you guys, a weekend event can't pull 220 entries. Like just a small event.
But you guys have figured it out, Brian. Because
no, it's not that we figured it out. It's just the structure. It's just the way we do it here, right? Like,
I mean, look, when it comes to that, though, you guys just have more arm wrestlers. You know, like if you,
maybe we just love.
Here's the thing: the one good thing about airs is that it gives us those numbers, right? And in a population in the U.S. of, let's just say, on the conservative side, 380 million, we've only got about 4,000 to 5,000 active arm wrestlers in the U.S. And most of those arm wrestlers are attending most of the events.
Yeah, I know. But
event.
Why is that though? Why is it that we have more arm wrestlers per capita than you? Then that but those are the demographics we have to look at, right? Like,
sure,
you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and that's why I say, like, when it comes to oversaturation, those are the numbers that I'm talking about. Like, we don't have enough. You know, if we're all talking about having, you know, bigger events and more competition and stuff like that, our numbers aren't aligning with the number of events that we're having.
100%.
You know,
and I think that's part of the reason too why people feel so stepped on, because I think they feel, they may not know it outright, but they feel that lack of pullers. They don't know it outright, like I said. But
Ottawa opened 600 to 800 entries a year.
Yeah, see, and that's what I'm saying, and I think that's why promoters feel so. They're clutching their pearls, because
I know you mean, they're hearing those numbers and they're thinking, ooh, you know what I mean? But
right here, like I said, they don't know it outright, but they know that there is not enough athletes in the United States so they want to just grab and make sure that they're getting everything that they want.
I just think there's too many people that want to be demanding. I think there's a lot of swollen head individuals. That's what I think.
That too.
Well, it's like, look, take Texas for our model, for instance. I'll 100% agree to that I'm looking for max turnout at every event I throw, because at the end of the year for Texas State, I've got about a $10,000 bill that I have to make for that, because we want to do payouts. Now, I can eliminate payouts and I can run every one of my events with 100 entries, no problem, you know, and it's not a worry. It's not a worry in the world. You know, so like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the number of events go up, we got to change our model, because we can't keep hitting the same goal if things keep changing. And then everything's cool. We got a different mindset. We go a different direction. I can do more at my regional events now. If I just say, hey, look, I'm not going to worry about putting $10K in the bank for Texas State anymore. We're still going to have it, right? It'll still be a state championship and whatever, but we're not going to do the payouts anymore. But I can turn around and add funds to my regionals to make them better, you know, because right now and not that to say that they're the bare minimum, but, you know, we run on a tight budget for those because we're trying to push forward everything to the end of the year. Yeah, we don't do that.
Well, maybe that might be the path, Billy, because, you know, our nationals, because our nationals, okay, like, so provincials here. This year, the guy that ran provincials, he made about 17,000 on that event. And all he gave out was medals, because it's provincials. Nationals, when you go to nationals, it's just medals. We're going for the prestige. We're going for the competition also. Yeah. Well, yeah, like Zach, you know, Zach from our podcast, he's right and left hand Canadian national champ. So Zach is officially right now #1 in Canada at that weight class.
And here's the thing,
because everyone goes too, so you can't say he's not.
when you have that, it's all about the competition. That's what
Yes.
it's not so much about this. It's all about the competition. Because, like, look, you guys said something about demographic, right? Lewis, you know where I'm going to go with this. I will take from top of the U.S. to the bottom, North Dakota, Kansas City, Texas, and everything on east of that. That's where all your pullers are. Out west, there's not that many in comparison. Not that many. Fuck, there's even least amount in the Pacific Northwest. And I hate that pains me to say that, because once upon a time, Bill Collins ran an event in Oregon every single year. Denise and Leonard ran an event in Oregon every single year. They don't have that no more. They don't come up here this way. That's just the way it is. Fuck. Oregon doesn't even have a state we don't have a state championship anymore because we don't get the numbers. It's just, so when you say something about demographic, the amount of pullers, they're all from the Midwest and on. You have a big chunk in the Southwest, like Arizona, maybe California, maybe Vegas, and you got that Utah. But other than that, that's it.
Well, I got another
story about that way east.
All of Idaho, there's less than 100. I'd say just barely cracking 100 arm wrestlers in all of Idaho that are actually active.
You know what I think it comes down to too, honestly. It's not just the promoter that needs to build these numbers and entries and get people in. Like here, we have a really good community as far as clubs. Like in Calgary, we got 5 arm wrestling clubs. In Alberta, I think there's 23 arm wrestling clubs in Alberta. So, and most clubs, they run anywhere from 30 to 70 members per club, right? There's some smaller clubs that are 10 to 15, whatever. But we promote within the communities, right? We do community boards. We're outside of arm wrestling. I promote things on the community boards just for the general public to build interest. And we get like sometimes 3-4 new guys on a certain night at practice. And one of those guys might stay around and be there the next year. You know what I mean? We're running the Good Games is getting held in February. There's going to be 30 to 40,000 people in attendance. It's held in 2 50,000 square foot buildings. And I'm running an arm wrestling clinic where I'm going to be setting up tables and allowing the public to come learn how to pull safe. I'm going to do a little thing where if you beat this guy, it's 100, this guy's 500. I'm going to do all that because there's 40,000 people that are going to be in attendance there. So hopefully if we can pick up 10, 15, 20 people that get interested and then search out a club and we gain that, then you know what I mean? Like, I think that we have to grow as a whole, right?
So,
and that's why
I would love to see something like that happen in the United States.
But it only takes a couple people
right
doing
now,
it, and it will happen.
Americans have their heads so far up their ass, being so happy that we are afraid to put that table. There's only a few people that are out there doing stuff like that are putting a table out there. Alex Toproll, what's his name in Ohio? Every now and again, Derek Smith, like some YouTuber will partner with like Derek Smith or Alan Fisher, Greg Sharp or whatever. But we're
Don't do it in California.
Yeah. We're selfish. The people are so happy and we want to see the sport grow. We want to see it happen, but to go out there and to expose the regular people to that and not risk injury and not it's tough. The United States is just a shitty place.
I hear what you're saying. Well, I look at it like I'm teaching people how to pull safe. I'm teaching people how to.
Oh, 100%. I teach people how to pull safe. Like I work as an air conditioning technician, and I tell people all the time, like I'm in thousands of homes every single year, and I'm like, oh yeah, I professionally arm wrestle. I've been arm wrestling for 8 years. This is what I've been doing, so on and so forth. And they're like, oh my God, that's so awesome. They see my Facebook, they see my Instagram, they see I'm pulling with Robert Oberst, they see, whatever. And like it's sparking some interest. And I always at every strongman event I go to, at every powerlifting event I go to, at the gym I go to, I'm always saying, come on over to our practice. We practice every Wednesday at 7 p.m. at this location, but to put an arm wrestling table out there, to hold a seminar, randomly in the park, it's one, we're selfish and nobody wants to take that time to do that themselves. I mean,
I love it. I love it, and I get
could.
content for the channel then if I do that, and
Right. You have YouTube. I don't have a YouTube channel, but it's like I'm not focused on growing the sport in that way. I'm focused on my family. This is just me personally.
I get it. I'm older. Like, all my kids are growing up, and
so it's different. If
I did, I did 4 expos in 1 year, and of course, all these expo promoters they want tournaments at their deal, and of course, that's just another tournament, in the schedule. So what I did 1 year was I had so many expo promoters contacting me. I said, look, let's do an exhibition.
Yep.
And then what I'll do is I'll bring a couple tables. I'll invite some pullers from the area. We'll come there for the day, 2 days, whatever like that. And we'll teach safety. We won't, I never did the whole beat the arm wrestler deal because of that safety aspect. Yeah. You have
waivers for it too here. Waivers do cover our ass here. Like if you sign,
But I did that for a year. I did like 4, maybe 5 expos in the year, and touched thousands of hands in the fitness community and stuff like that. And unfortunately, till this day, I only know of one guy that actually came into arm wrestling from all that.
See, that's crazy. I don't understand. Like I went to a tournament last year, and these 3 drunk guys came up to me. They were young 20s, right? And they go, "Man, you're a big dude, man." And I was like, "Yeah, I was out having a smoke because we can't smoke inside here." So I'm outside having a smoke, and he go, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm a professional arm wrestler. I got a big tournament tomorrow." I said, "You know what? Are you guys into arm wrestling?" "Oh, I love it. I watch Devin on, here everyone watches Devin, right?"
Yeah.
So they're like, "I watch Devin." I'm like, "Listen, man." I'm like, "Why don't you come check it out tomorrow? It's Mayhem at the Mall." Mayhem at the Mall. We've had John Brezink there. We've had many greats. RVJ, tons of guys at Mayhem at the Mall. It's a big event. 600 entries to 1,000 entries every November. But anyway, this kid came the next day and he competed. He did okay. I think he got a 3rd place or whatever. 4 months later, he goes, "Hey, Brian." He goes, "Hey, man, thanks a lot for telling me." He goes, "Now I live, eat, breathe, and shit arm wrestling." He goes, "I'm so happy I met you that night." And now he's been pulling for 2 years, and he's like, I think he's in the top 10 in his weight class in Alberta. And I have lots of those stories. I have lots of them. So,
I might be in a special situation because, and this is where it's like I have to talk with the person that I train with. So I train with Robert Oberst. I know some of you know.
I've been a fan of Robert. I want him on the pod. I want to talk to Robert.
So Robert, Robert was getting ready for Eddie Hall, and he was training with Alan Fisher. And he was just like, Alan's just not my speed as far as training goes. I just don't feel like I'm gaining. So he was training with Ian and Ryan Schmidt, who these boys are genetic freaks. Love them to death. They're just stupid.
Aquaman and Thor. Yeah.
Literally. They look like they could be
natural gifted. Yeah.
And I reached out to him just randomly. He's like, "Hey, you know what? I'll take you up on it." And since then, him and I have been practicing 2 days a week in my garage, working technique, and now we're ramping it up. And it's like, all right, now I really got to beat on our arms more. Really got to work that side pressure, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So I think I'm in that position where, I have a name behind me, a literal giant individual that we could, because he's got the YouTube channel and stuff, that we could potentially do something. Yep. Now, of course, he's got to talk with his manager. He's got to look at how this is going to all play out and this and that. Because, that's his business. So I can't just be like, "Hey, you're a strong man. Let's do this," because he's going to want, he needs to have compensation for his time.
Oh, for sure.
So I got to figure it out. Like that, definitely.
YouTube but compensates, brother.
Huh?
He would get compensation on YouTube because his numbers are good. I follow Robert. I always have. I'm a strongman lover, and I am so excited about these guys crossing into arm wrestling. You don't even know. And Robert, I said before when Eddie Hall started getting into it, Brian Shaw, I said, "You know what? Robert needs to." Because his lever, his hand, I watched him in that first practice. When he was in the gym and he seen Alan Fisher and them, and he walked up.
Yeah,
I watched that video footage, and I said, "That guy's a natural top rower." His hand, his back pressure. He could probably go in and win amateurs first tournament for sure in the supers. You know what I mean?
There's days. It's fun. I can tell you some stories. It's fun. There's days where I'll manipulate him, I'll work him, I can do certain things. He's really worked on his hand. It's way strong. He can just take what he wants. Now that he's getting all that mind muscle connection coming through, he's going to be a problem. He's going to be a problem.
His tennis
extremely explosive.
If it wasn't for his brachialis going off on him, he would have beat it. I think he would have beat Eddie. Yeah. Like that round where he just ripped him over. It looked like his brachialis it looked like he had toothache pains in his brachialis is what it looked like.
So in that Eddie match, he had a tendon roll in his elbow.
Oh, in his elbow. Okay. I thought it was the brachialis.
He had a tendon roll, and he hadn't experienced that happen to him before. So he was like, Yeah.
He could have it's better to be safe than sorry. Yeah, no, it's better to be safe. Yeah. But yeah, he's got natural gifts, and I think he's got more natural gifts than than Eddie and Brian do.
Yeah,
he just looks like he's built for arm wrestling. He just looks like it.
He's fun. He's fun right now.
I bet. I'd love. I said I'd like to pull those guys before they get too good.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Get them while you can.
Exactly.
Well, guys, this has been some healthy conversation over here because I think, after we all kind of sat there and touched base on our opinions about certain topics and stuff and questions, that I do, as a whole, I like what Lewis kind of laid out. Hey, what if we got FLA, TAL, arm sport with Arizona, Washington, and maybe somewhere up north where you are, Brian, says, hey, let's get together, have the figurehead, so to speak, of those particular promotions, get together. Hey, Ryan Grondin, guess what? What if we had this game plan? Again, put down your weapons, and says, hey, what if we did something like this? And then, like they said in WWE, right? The road to WrestleMania, it can be the road to Winter Blast, right?
Well,
have something like that.
I can tell you from coming together with 98. So yesterday I got a message from, Carolyn Looms. She's a very supportive person in the chats. She sent me a picture of an invoice of her buying a Through the Fingers mug and a Through the Fingers t-shirt. And I said to myself, I didn't even know I had t-shirts or mugs. Ryan made a store. Ryan made a store and did all this. And what he's doing is the profit that comes off of it is going to be he's going to keep, like, let's say I make $8. If we make $8 or $10 off the shirt, $2 will go to the 98 fund, and then the rest of it will be wired to Through the Fingers. And he's doing it. He just went ahead and did it for all the franchisees. So I've already started selling mugs and t-shirts.
I'm glad you brought that up because there is a 98 website, and he got he's got a 3D printer. He's making handles and that kind of stuff, t-shirts, hats, all kind of apparel. Now you got to understand, this is what we're talking about. He's doing stuff for the sport, and you got some of these people. I don't like Ryan because of this, that, and the other. I'm like, listen, and even Ryan, he'll tell you himself. I talk to Ryan at least once, if not twice a week, and we sit there and touch base and stuff. And thinking, all right, and I even told him, if you want to take the sport seriously, because we all know back in the day he had it was a circus on his show. I'm like, no one's gonna take you seriously if you keep having these cast of misfits on your fucking show. And I told him that, like, get away with all the fucking, Red Shoe Diary bullshit. In that shit. When you start taking stuff seriously, and now you got a franchise. People are buying in. Now you got a store. Like you said, you got a mug and t-shirt. Now we're at a point, okay, fine. Now he's gotten together with the AUA. Now they're taking you seriously because now the focal point, the bigger picture is arm wrestling and not all the fucking shenanigans and all that kind of stuff. And I think I told him that. It's like, right. And I'm saying I love it. He's doing that kind of stuff because he's doing it for the sport, not so much for himself. And I think if everybody realized that and not think this is the old Ryan, people are still hung up on that for whatever reason. But they're still hung up on that.
I had Luke on last week, Culture. So he did not talk very supportive about the 98 at all. But that's fine. So no, I'm going to give you an example. So he said, I don't like the fact that you had to pay a franchise fee. I said, it's a share fee. Okay. And it goes right into the main account. And I said, you're right. You know what? A lot of people wouldn't like that. And I didn't really like it either, but I did it. Right. So listen to this. So Ryan's talking to somebody right now they would like, because 98 now it's showing promise. Now, if you're a sponsor and you're sponsoring something and it stretches right across the US and into Canada, right across North America, would you not want your brand on all of it? So this sponsor, let's say he gives Ryan, he says, oh, he agrees to so much a year or so much a quarter. Ryan is now going to take that sponsorship money and it gets immediately split up amongst all the franchisees, and it gets wired to us to help fund our next event. But we have to, obviously, we have to advertise that sponsor, of course. But like I'm saying, how many of those payments, that initial payment I gave to the 98, how long before it just paid itself? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, by coming together and networking, there's little eggs all over the place. Now I got a merch line. I didn't even know I had a merch line. Now all of a sudden Ryan's saying, yeah, you're making some sales. We're going to have some money for you. And I didn't even know. Ryan just did it, but he did it for all, like Georgia, he did it for all of them, right? Tim Bresnan just came on and franchised it. So now Tim's in there, right? Yeah. There's like Paul Passmore and Candy Passmore. They're in now, right? And then now they're selling shirts and mugs and shit. Oh, sorry, I got a call there. And they're making money. And like Ryan just went ahead and just did it on his own time. I didn't even know we had this stuff. So all I'm saying is by coming together, the example is by coming together, it does create different revenue sources. You never want to have your eggs all in one basket. Everybody knows that. You want little eggs. You want to spread them out everywhere. And if by coming together and networking, there is return, and it does help, you know what I mean, with the overall picture, right? So just an example.
I think what I'm going to do to put a bow tie on this show is that I'm going to try to reach out to some of those big promoters like we talked about. I know some are on vacation right now, so I'm going to have to wait till they get back so they can answer this. So I got their full attention. And just throw it out there, a game plan, see what happens, see what happens. Say, look, I think this might be a good plan, see what happens, and just get all the people involved and go, look, what do you think about this? I mean, if we're all for the sport, right, like we say we are, then consider this. Now, you may agree, you may not agree, but consider this. However, if we all agree to that, you got to put down your personal feelings about the individual if you don't like, because this is what it is. You got to let that stuff go,
If you truly love the community, you truly love arm wrestling, you can't let your personal feelings get in the way. Yeah.
Because still the spotlight will still be the TAL, FLA, Arm Sport, whatever. That will still be the spotlight because now you're going to have people going, oh, I need to go to this one because then I want to get to Winter Blast, But to get there, it's like, oh, do I have to go through that kind of stuff, I think if we had that kind of, open avenue, maybe that might turn things. Because, again, I think I understand we have to evolve. And right now, the latest and greatest, or I should say the flavor of the month or the flavor of the last 5-6 years has been Supermatch pulling, which is good. Don't get me wrong. But there's still a place for tournament pulling. I think, for us to get back to that when it was all about who was in the class. And then it's like, oh, I want to get my crack at so-and-so to see if I can beat them instead of, are they cherry picking? Are they coming? Yeah, I might just work an overtime shift. I don't want to go because then they feel like, because again, we live in this weird society where it's like, I want to be able to go to an event where I can still place top 3. That's the fucking dumbest thing ever. I think a lot of us, like I said before earlier in the show, we kind of forgot about why we got into the sport. Like it's all about competition. When it's all said and done, we can all sit there and talk shop, have a bite to eat after pull, wherever the fuck, and go from there. But I think I might reach out to the powers that be in those organizations and just see what they think about it.
Why not? At least you're doing something positive, moving in the right direction, and
trying to.
It only takes an effort. It only takes an effort, and it takes someone to set. You got to lead by example, right? We talked to I heard everybody talk about what we talked about today, but no one they just talk. It's just lip service, right? It's like,
well, I'm gonna reach out. I'll go ahead and make the first move. If I fail, then I fail. At least I gave it a shot, right?
And what if you reached a couple? What if you reached a few people though, and you just That's all it takes, right? It's just a slow, it's like planting a seed and just hopefully it grows slowly. That's all you can do.
Right. Well, gentlemen, hey, thanks for we've been on here for almost 2 hours, man. That went by kind of quick, honestly. But this is why I brought you three on here, because I knew we can probably get something done. I knew that, we all had our opinions. But here's the thing. The biggest part I take from this is that we got on a conference call, basically, and we went live. We got on a conference call and nobody was mad at one another. We just say, hey, there's some things that I said that y'all didn't agree with. And I'm like, okay, well, let me see, hear what you guys got to say and stuff. And I was okay with that. And vice versa. But there was no fighting amongst each other. And that's what I think some of the problems stem from now. You got too many people where I understand you got strong opinions. I get that. But, I still agree with some things I like to do. But you know what, though? I always want to hear what you guys got to say. Hey, I disagree, Joey.
Yeah, sometimes we're not looking at the same angle. And sometimes when you say an opinion, I can say, you know what, I never really looked at it from that viewpoint, right? So my opinion is always open to change, because you know what? Everyone's got an opinion. They're all valid. And sometimes we're just looking from different angles. And I like to hear the different point of views. And sometimes I say, you know what, I never really thought about the way he's looking at it. I understand, right?
Well, I wanted to be here, and this is why I got with Jody, is because I'm that outside looking in, have had enough involvement in some big promotions and seeing how things kind of work and what's being done and said, and have those contacts and conversations where it's like, I'm not a major influence, but I have a outside looking in perspective.
Yeah, you have a good point of view, and you're exposed. You've been pulling for what, 10 years now?
Almost.
Yeah, almost. I remember you saying something like 9 or something. But yeah. So you've seen it all, right? And I mean, I'm sure the whole community's got opinions, and they're all valid, right? So it's just about putting differences aside, I think, and not just understanding that, in the end, we all do love arm wrestling. Like, I love it with all my soul, right? So
100%. It's the one sport I've stayed in the longest. Because there's no people with chips on their shoulders like when I was playing semi-pro baseball.
Well, not only that, like I get treated like gold and like a brother everywhere I go. It doesn't matter if I go in the States, doesn't matter where I go. I always get treated with respect. So, and there's no other community like that, I'm telling you.
No, I have not met.
There it is. Billy, anything you want to add before we go ahead and put a bow tie on this show?
No, it was a great conversation. I mean, it's always a difficult one because it inspires a lot of emotions because you have those egos and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we got to figure out something.
Yeah.
Some people don't. Some promoters aren't, quote unquote promoters, aren't going to care what's going on or what other people have going on, or if there's a goal, there's a plan, and whether that path might be best for everybody, or maybe there's a different path. But
right. Well, good. Well, guys, I just want to thank all you three for coming on the show and stuff. Lewis, thanks for trying to hype this thing up to jumpstart this thing. And I'm like, you know what? I'm bringing in Billy because he's a bona fide organizer, promoter. I want to bring Brian. He does the same thing. He gave us some of that Canada flavor, so I was glad to have all three of you guys on. And like I said, I'm gonna start putting in some calls probably next week when everybody's kind of back home and now off vacation and stuff, and just see where it goes. And all I can do is throw it out there, and we'll see what happens. So, but guys, enjoy the rest of your Monday, Mr. Canada man. Enjoy your Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
It's Thanksgiving in Canada. Canadians Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's today.
Oh, what do you guys do? Turkey,
turkey,
Moose?
and spend time with family, and
there you go.
Gravy.
Well, good talking to you, fellas.
Hey,
all right, take care.
Good to hear from everybody. Have a good one, guys.